What is the worst way you've ruined an intimate moment? A girl I was crushing on in high school was extremely flirty with me. One day, she asked, "Slick guy," that's our poster, slick guy, a slick guy, "do you have a girlfriend?" I didn't want to come across as a noob, so hoping to look cool and impress her, I flatly lied. Yes. In the subsequent months, I realised she'd asked me that to check if I was single. No way, I refuse to believe anyone can be this oblivious. That's just a new level of incompetence, mate. Welcome to Reddit. By calling her the wrong name. Twice. Not the same wrong name, two different wrong names. I was going on a first date with a guy who was a corporate lawyer, and he mentioned he might be coming straight from work, had to excuse his douchey lawyer clothes. And yet when he arrived, he was wearing a really awful skinny maroon wool suit, a paisley printed shirt, and pointed crocodile shoes. Without even thinking, I said, "Wow, you weren't kidding, you do look douchey." And he said, "I made it home to change." Guys, cheese is amazing. Pointing with fork at a triangular thing I just ate. "That's butter." We order a small snack for our coffee, and as it's arriving, he pulls out his Nokia phone. Trying to make a light-hearted joke, I say, "Man, that's got to be the oldest phone I've seen in a while." I really dug it in. Well, turns out it's not a Nokia, it was his insulin pump. Friend of mine works in a lab testing blood for AIDS and working on treatments. He's super shy and awkward, and he went on a blind date, and the first thing he could think to say was, "So, do you like HIV?" We spent most of the date going shopping for clothes. For another date she had later that week, he just kept making a weird amount of jokes about tapeworms while we were eating sushi. Asked me the worst crime I'd commit if I'd get away with it. I said I'd steal a few million from a bank. They said they'd Dharma someone. "Hello, FBI tip line." He was nearly silent during the entire date and then started on a 15-minute rant about the ancient brothels of Pompeii, going into far too much detail about the goings-on in them than is appropriate discussion for a first date, and the whole time he had melted vanilla ice cream on his chin. Went on a dinner date with a guy who didn't say one single word except for ordering. He also busted out fingernail clippers and cut his nails at the table. I still wonder if I was on a hidden camera show. I saw that. Silent Clipper Datings on MTV4. Similarly, from Mediocrity Is Enough, met up for a coffee after having quite a nice chat over Tinder for a few days. He sits down and says, "Oh hey, nice to meet you," then continues to pull out his laptop and sit there in complete silence for the next hour. You sure it's the same guy? Because it seems like you just sat down with some guy at a coffee shop. Oh, I'm seriously considering that this is the actual story. Once, on a date with a girl I met at a party a couple days before, I forgot who I was meeting. I arrived early and thought she was just some girl hitting on me, so I totally blew her off. We had dinner and all was going well, and we were wandering down the dark sidewalk engaged in conversation when she walked straight into a signpost that neither of us noticed. I let out one nervous laugh before I could stop it, and she accused me of engineering the event for my amusement. He made me watch his homemade rap videos and tried to like his own FB page on my phone. I had to go to the bathroom after he was finished, and apparently he thought my need to smell his shit was my main motivation for the trip. Ugh, you just had to go smell it, didn't you, hey? I was dating a girl called Teresa, Terra for short. One day I said to her, Terra means monster in Greek. Yeah, my grandma died recently. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. How'd she die? She left her nursing home in her scooter and got hit by a car while crossing the street. That's hilarious. I went on a single date with a woman, and I learned she'd dated separately, coincidentally, both my brother and cousin. Gotta catch 'em all. She told me at dinner, this was last night, that she has an imaginary elephant that she charges her neighbours to see, and that aliens cause jet lag, and that I have the ghost of a fisherman following me around, named Samuel. Does bursting into tears after I told him I didn't like a TV show count? I'm curious as to what TV show it was. Grey's Anatomy. Cried when he saw my hedgehog. He didn't realise they were real. I do not miss dating. We were going to see a movie and we walked by a poster for 500 Days of Summer. She turns to me and asks if that was an accurate amount of days in summer because it doesn't sound like that's a large enough number. I responded by asking her, well, how many days are in a year? She said, we don't know until the year is over, and it was in that moment that I realised I made a terrible mistake. I went on a date with a guy. After the movie, he barely talked to me, other than to play the SpongeBob SquarePants theme on a penny whistle. After he dropped me back off at my house, he sent me a ton of messages about how I wish I could have sucked on your face. First ever date, we watched Ted 2. Halfway in, he shows me a picture of a dog sticking his tongue out with the text, "Kiss above it, and when I turned to him, he gave me a peck on the lips and went on as if nothing happened. I was 16 and on a movie date. Went to do that move where you stretch your arms and put it back down around her shoulder. Instead, I just elbowed her in the face. I'm 17. We met online. Halfway through the movie, I work up the courage and put my arm around her. Oh yeah, cool guy now, I'm thinking. A few seconds later, she leans in for a kiss. So I lean in for what I intended to be a kiss, but instead blew a raspberry on her lips and turned away nervously, hoping this wouldn't be stuck as the worst first kiss ever. It was. Sorry, buddy, you blew a raspberry on her lips? You what? When I was 17, 18, we watched a movie together, and after, in the parking lot, he licked my eye. Licked my eye! Called a guy in middle school. Freaked out for ages. Went through an actual script. In my head, I was going to ask him about a movie we'd talked about a few weeks earlier, ask him to see it with me, he'd say yes, and voila! Happily ever after. Yeah, in reality, it went down like this. Hey, is, Kristen? Oh, hey, what's up? Nothing, you know. So, have you seen Fast and Furious yet? Hey, oh, yeah, just saw it last week with Rob. I had no idea what to say, because in my script, he hadn't seen it. The silence was deafening. Not exaggerating, it's probably close to a minute. He actually asked, well? I shouted, I don't know. I offered to pay for the bill. She insisted to pay half. Didn't fight it, but only had a large bill, so I pocketed her money and put my bill in. Anyway, long story short, I did the math wrong and stole $20 from her. She sarcastically said, oh, thank you, and I thought she was being sincere. He asked me to walk on his right side so I don't accidentally scratch his new expensive watch. She showed me pictures of her ex's penis before and after. She photoshopped a little cowboy hat and sheriff's badge on it while I'm driving on the highway. So what does this do? Pulls handbrake. I went out with this girl that was confused by an ice cream cone. She looked over at me, cone in hand, and said, what do I do with this? Eat it. How? Do you want a spoon? That won't help. They just lick it. What, like a dog? Well, I mean, sort of. I don't know. I got a date with a girl who I really liked. We met in a local pub for a few drinks and things were great. An hour of pure bliss went by and I needed a piss. After washing my hands, I went to the hand dryer and it didn't work and looked like part of the protective grill was hanging from it. In the most stupidly brain fart moment of my life, I thought, I can fix this, and put my hand inside the nozzle of the dryer. Bam! Buzzed by the electric heating element, fell back, cracked my head on the wall. I didn't get knocked out but had a banging headache and I wasn't quite right. She turned me down when I asked her for a second date, and a year or so later I found out she had told her friend when I came out of the toilet I was acting really weird and she wasn't up for dating someone on drugs. Last night I finally went on a date with this guy who's been asking me out for the past couple of months. He took me to a weight loss seminar. We went to a go-kart track after dinner. Very awkward to be driving at an uncomfortably slow pace, racing each other, having to make small talk as you pass. I took him to the zoo with me, for free, I might add, because I had a guest membership, and he showed up wearing a speaker backpack. While we walked around, he played loud reggae music out of it, and even made us stop a couple hours into our day to swap out his phone batteries and continue playing loud, obnoxious reggae music everywhere we went. Needless to say, I declined to join him for lunch afterward, and I never spoke to him again. No woman, no cry. Hey, this reminds me of this story. I just remember the time I went on a first date to London Zoo, and at the gate he asked if I would mind paying for my own ticket, which I said I would, yeah, at which point he pulled out a 2-for-1 voucher, so I paid for my ticket and he went in for free. We were going mini-golfing and the dude picked me up wearing a full-on tux. It was so odd. Met a guy at the skate park when I was 14. He asked if I'd go out with him the next day. I thought he was gorgeous, and when he said I should dress up, I expected something special. He took me to his little sister's funeral. The guy played Dance Dance Revolution for a good 45 minutes while I just stood there. I left and played a couple arcade games by myself, then came back, he's still playing. On the car ride home, he started suggesting names for our kids. No! I got asked if I liked Boggle. The guy then pulled out a Boggle board and proceeded to solo Boggle to show me how great he was at boggling. Date to TGI Fridays with my first boyfriend. He spent the whole hour and a half we were there trying to teach me how to play chess, and then getting seriously annoyed with me when I wanted to eat or just talk about anything other than chess. Wait, did he actually bring a chess set to the restaurant, or was he just trying to talk you through it? Oh no, he was just walking me through it on an invisible chessboard and kept mapping it out on the table with his fingers and saying, okay, so your pawn is here, points to random space on table, and mine is there, points to equally arbitrary space on table, like, God damn it, Luke, let a bitch eat a burger. Don't touch the burger, the burger's the queen! I went on a 4-hour date with a woman who rides horses for a living. The entire 4 hours, she told me everything I could possibly want to know about horses, and then some. Edit? Oh, holy fuck, the puns have me dying. Sounds like you got your filly of horse facts that night. You could have tried to rein in that conversation a bit. Sounds like a stable relationship. I don't know, date sounds like a real mare to me. As long as they're happy, that's the main thing. Horse changed his Facebook status to in a relationship just before we met up, and then acted confused when I asked him what that was about. Turns out he thought that by agreeing to a date, we're now an item. I'm posting everything we say on Instagram, and I'm getting suggestions on what to ask you from like my followers. I went to the toilet and left. Yo, she said she's like going to the toilet, chat. Oh, she never came back, Chad. Like sad face. I'm 24. He told me I'd look like I was 13, if not for the wrinkles. Managed to insult me for looking too young and too old at the same time. When I looked offended, he said, oh no, don't worry, I like that you kind of look like you're 13. You're pretty cute for a black guy. Vegetarian girl. Wait, pepperoni's not a vegetable? Oh. You know, I don't even mind that you're, well, you know, waves hand vaguely at my body. Do you mean to give off such a strong grandma energy? I was 22. I want to carve your initials on my thigh with a knife. I only agreed to go out with you because I wanted to see if you were anything like my ex, but I'm really angry with him right now because he stopped speaking to me after his wife found out about us, and he promised he'd never do that to me, but I've been seeing a male therapist about it. We both admitted that we want to fuck each other, but because we don't, it's therapeutic. Check please, thanks mate. Yep. You are as beautiful as Hitler's niece. I could kill you and keep you alive. Got paging Erwin Schrödinger. I asked out a woman in her early 40s. Her mum insisted on going. She sat between us at the movie theatre. You actually went on a date with a female Seymour Skinner. This guy and I were at a restaurant on our first date. He ordered steak and the waitress forgot her silverware. He just picked it up with his hands and started eating it. Sounds like she was dating Ron Swanson. We had some playful banter before our date and he asked me about my kinks. So I told him I like being choked. When we met up in the parking lot, dude immediately gets me in a WWE chokehold in broad daylight, presumably thinking my panties were going to drop right then and there. Did you go out with Hulk Hogan on a first date? I once had a first and last date with this guy who, he tried to get me to dictate his every move, like he wouldn't even turn left or right unless I told him to. I just said, yeah, I'm not doing that. Did you date an NPC or something? He told me he had 3 maxed out credit cards and then proceeded to do his best Peter Griffin impression. Hey Lois, why do I always end up doing a Peter Griffin impression? It seems like every video. Hey Lois, I maxed out the 3rd card. He got us pulled over, car was searched, he had a brick of coke in the trunk. He used his pocket knife to scrape some dirt clumps off of his shoe and to cut me a slice of cake. Went for a walk around a local lake. This lake has little stops along the way for people to exercise, pull-up bars, etc. Dude stopped mid-conversation at every stop to get in a quick pump. He didn't let me order on a lunch date at a cafe because, to quote, girls don't really eat anything for lunch anyway, so I drank water while he ate a family-sized pasta dish with his mouth open and talked constantly about fashion. We went back to her place and, she thrusted a model of the cell in my hands and asked if I could name any of the parts. I got you got membrane, a nucleus, as ribosomes, mitochondria, cytoplasm. At that point, she ripped it out of my hands. I guess I was supposed to not know them. How do you know about the mitochondria, eh? Who told you? On the train from Catania, there was an adorable puppy. Instead of saying who they were with, I fucking love dogs, I somehow managed to say, I love fucking dogs. Met her dad, meant to say, pleasure to meet you. I said, I am pleasure. I went to meet the guy I just started to date at his parents' house. It was my first time meeting his mom. We stood in the front foyer as he put on his shoes. I took a comically large inhale of this beautiful bouquet of flowers sitting on a side table. table and said, "Oh wow, those smell amazing." And his mom blinked at me and said, "They're fake." Joined an eye-gazing speed date event that was going in a pub I was in. I.e., rather than chat for a few minutes with each girl, you simply stare into each other's eyes. Oh no, Reddit, what's gonna go wrong here? Anyway, I was born with no irises. And due to the lack of light management, my brain has tried to compensate by causing involuntary eye movement. So we're staring away at each other, trying to communicate sexy thoughts, and she starts turning green, covers her mouth, runs to the ladies. My involuntary eye movement made her suffer from motion sickness. Met her at a hospital. I was an ER patient for a hand wound. She was a phlebotomist. That old love story. Asked her out to a movie and then dinner. Had a really excellent talk. We were getting to know each other and flirting. And at the end, when I told her I'd like to do it again, she said, "Oh no, her fiancé probably wouldn't be cool with it a second time." Jesus H, what the fuck? She threw up a little in her mashed potatoes, then tried to hide it by swirling the throw up into the mashed potatoes and eating it. What the fuck? Went on a blind date with a lady who wouldn't stop picking at her scabs. Just made a pile out of him on the restaurant table. Christ, in a crack house. Showed up for a blind date, meeting at a bar. Walk in, 12 people are sitting at the table with him. His disciples? He kept saying, I seen. In this pompous voice that seemed to suggest he was using correct grammar. That got old quickly. I broke it off with a guy who texted, "We minus well" instead of might as well. Yeah, you'd be amazed how often even the tiniest of grammatical hiccups are enough to ruin a date. These aren't all contributing here to this video's 101 total, but just for example, I once briefly saw a guy who would spell notice K-N-O-T-I-C-E. It drove me N-U-T-S. One of my exes, always, every single time, both written and spoken, got then and than backwards. I couldn't do it. I think I'm your ex. Well then. One of my exes called it Valentine's Day. Nunchucks. Grand pricks. Thought toiletries were actually toilet treats. Drove me to insanity. My ex used to think that guess is spelled with a Q. Anyway, where were we? This girl set me up with her sister. We went to the park. She had filled the trunk of her car with troll dolls. I mean, dozens and dozens of them. And introduced me to her trolls one by one. I should mention, we're in our 20s. She was getting angry because I didn't seem all that interested in her dolls. So, sitting there, hands full of troll dolls, she exasperatedly asks me, "So, are we going to have sex? Do you even know how to have sex?" "I showed you my troll collection. Please respond." I refused to date a friend's friend because she would pick up her cat and try to have a conversation with me about her as the cat. She took me to a bar, and then she stole a framed portrait off the wall as we left. She told me that the Crystal Skull was her favourite Indiana Jones movie. He said he'd take me to the best spot in the city, and took me to a self-service car wash just to stand there for a bit and watch people look at his car. Skull emoji. What kind of car though? Oh, I remember it still because he mentioned it so often. An Audi A7. Skull emoji. I shit my pants 20 minutes before getting engaged. Literally within the first 60 seconds of meeting him. Oh, I was running late, so I didn't shave my pubes for you. Then he loudly broke out into song. "It's a jungle down there." In the middle of the bar, complete with hand gestures. Went to a Japanese steakhouse. Date heckled the chef and threw pieces of food at the next table. She pissed off the chef so much he doused her plate and set it on fire, then walked away. Plate was completely engulfed in flames. Yeah, it was the weirdest date ever. Servers of Reddit, what's the most awkward date you've seen unfold? I once saw a guy shake his date's hand when she reached over to grab some bread. We met at Jamba Juice and he said he wanted to show me something in his car and promised it wasn't his penis. We get in his car and while we start driving around downtown, he pulls a cassette tape out of his pocket that he says he got a Goodwill for only $1. What a steal. Puts it in his stereo, presses play, then says he's been practicing. It was a learn how to yodel cassette tape. So we're driving around the highly populated downtown with the windows wide open and this man is yodeling his little heart out, only stopping every now and then to waggle his eyebrows at me in what I think is an attempt at seduction. Then a bee flies in the window and my date freaks the fuck out, says he got in a car accident because of a bee the year before. It starts flailing around while yodeling, trying to get the bee out the window. In the process, he hits his thumb on the steering wheel, stops yodeling, starts screaming about how much his thumb hurts. We're approaching a three-way intersection with a green light, and he insists his hand hurts too much to keep steering, then demands I steer his car until it feels better. He then starts yodeling sadly again. Think I'd rather it was his penis. Went to Olive Garden with a girl, and while we were eating soup, she proceeds to deep throat a breadstick. Oh, very suggestive. Yeah, I'm an awkward guy. guy, so I decided to do it also. We were watching Suicide Squad, we're making out, and I said, "Wait, Batman's in this part, give me a sec." She invited me up to her place, got us each a glass of wine, and then took her pants off, at which point I assumed she was going to bed, said goodnight, and left. She's sitting on my lap, and we're asking each other questions, and she asks me, "Where would you want to be if you could be anywhere right now?" Before realising that she wanted me to say, "Right here, with you." Being the doofus I was, I replied, Russia. Was making out, things were getting hot, and she presses up against my chest and says, "I can feel your heart." All romantic and seductive like, I whispered back, "I can feel your arse." I was on a first date with a guy I really liked. Everything was going great, and we ended up making out on the couch. I pulled away for a moment to say something sweet, but all that came out was, "You smell like laundry detergent." We were mid-make-out session, in his best sexy, "I am so into this" voice. He said, "I am so turned on by your ox-like form." We were in bed. Girl, "Oh, it's cold in here." Me, for some reason, in a fake Indian accent, "Not as cold as my heart." Whoa, why the accent? I have no idea, to be honest. I feel like maybe I was attempting a relevant quote, but I ended up making one up. I was curious how she would react to a Gollum voice impression during intimacy. It was received poorly. Started singing, "Can you feel the love tonight" by Elton John during our first time doing the sex. Years later, still cringing, a fraternity brother of mine was really drunk and hooking up with a chick. He couldn't get her bra strap undone, so he reaches under his bed and pulls out a headlamp to try and see it better. One night during the foreplay, I leaned in to whisper something sexy to my fiancé, and for some goddamn reason, my brain spit out, "The Muffin Man!" And finally, the date's gone really well. You're getting frisky in the bedroom. He asked me to say his name, but then want me to spell it. Stuck. What? As part of the repertoire of useless skills I've accrued making these videos, I now need to learn how to play the SpongeBob SquarePants theme on this slide whistle, which keeps sticking. This is out of tune. God, I hate this thing. SpongeBob SquarePants, I mean, that'll do. We only did 100, as it turns out. We've actually still got one more to go. He tried to imitate a slide whistle noise during sex one time while he was putting it in.